It is Let's Talk Arts and Entertainment on WMAY, another segment of State of the Arts, looking at what's going on locally and around the world, joined once again with Gus Gordon. How you doing, Gus?
Kevin, I'm okay. How are you? It's a beautiful day. It's sunny
It
outside.
is.
It's warm.
It's beautiful, nice and sunny. Temperature's great for a day. It might get cold tomorrow, but it is nice outside, sunny, so that's
Right.
great. It's always great to see.
As
And there is,
we're recording this, we should say.
yeah, as we're recording this, yes, it is nice and sunny outside. Yes, but there's a couple different things going on locally, and we can talk a little bit more in depth in a couple minutes here about Phase 4, which came down very suddenly.
Did.
Nobody was really expecting it to come down as quick as it did, but Dance Arts Studio, and talking with Gina DeCroy in a little bit about that. They are allowing some classes to come back. I believe 2 days ago they allowed some. They're allowing some today and the next couple of days. Some of them
Right.
coming back. They're all wearing masks, but they're getting back into doing some in-person practicing and could lead to some in-person performance, since that is big. That is, in the world of theater, we're slowly starting to get back into doing some in-person performances. So I think that is a good sign, and it's good that they're getting back, and that the young dancers are being able to do something.
Right. Especially the rehearsals. And we'll be the same way at the Hoagland Center for the Arts. We'll be opening up a little bit more this weekend and early next week for all of our resident organizations to come back and start rehearsing again. The ballet company, obviously, that Gina's involved with as the ballet mistress, they'll be starting, I think, on Saturday. We'll have the youth orchestras come back and the civic orchestra come back and start rehearsing, and the folk dancers. So it did come down suddenly. You are exactly right. As of Friday, we heard that Region 3 was still in Tier 3 mitigations. It wouldn't be out of them. And then Monday night at 8 o'clock, I think it was, we got word from Downtown Springfield, Inc., that we were all of a sudden in Phase 4 again, which meant, groups of up to 50 can meet, I believe. It's still a little fuzzy on how many, but of course we have to stay masked. We have to keep 6 feet apart. I'm, just a little concerned that why did this happen? How did it happen? We, nationally, we keep hearing about this new strain, a new variant of COVID-19 from the UK that's 70% more contagious and will be across the United States by March and be widespread. It's already in Illinois. So I'm a little concerned that we're opening up right at this time before we know what's going to happen with that. But
Right.
I'm not an expert. I'm just, trying to get along like everybody else, and it's a little confusing.
Yeah, no, and I agree with you there, because there are a lot of things with the with everything opening back up, seemingly, at least to a percentage of people, or like you said, about 50 people that could be in there. Yeah, it's great for definitely a lot of local businesses, because they need the business. But yeah, it is one of those things where the numbers of cases, deaths, everything aren't, it's not like they've halted. I mean, they're, the positivity rates, I'm sure, a little, starting to get lower. But yeah, it sort of went straight from, well, we're in, this tier, jumped immediately to Phase 4. And
Right.
so
I would have thought open it up to 10 people. Open it up
like
to
a Phase
5
3
people
or something.
Pages, but to go from 0 to 50
Yeah.
for us anyway, indoors, that
Yeah.
was kind of not expected. Not expected, but we're getting our act together. We're getting the staff scheduled again and back up and operating, and getting the building disinfected to be prepared. And we'll move forward like everybody else, and we'll take a step back if we need to. I hope they have information that I don't have, and that I'm not. They may know more than the rest of us, and that's what I'm going to keep hoping anyway.
Yeah, it's good, because because the more that we are able to be inside places, and especially people can be inside the Hoagland, then people will be able to rehearse in the Hoagland, as you guys do have a couple of shows coming up. We talked a bit about them last week.
Yeah,
Last 5 years, you said, as being.
We've got Becoming Dr. Ruth coming up with Felicia Coulter, and they'll be rehearsing in the building again. We've got
Mhm.
a Valentine's Day concert we're going to do with, among others, Mary Kate Smith, Tiffany Williams, Asni Vigasa, Hope Cherry, Anna Mazenbacher, Sarah Geckner, Vanessa Ferguson, and oh gosh, who else? Cinder Reitzman and a few other people. So we'll be putting that together and having a Valentine's Day concert, a virtual Valentine's Day on February
Nice.
14th, courtesy of some of our local divas.
Cool. That's going to be great. All bunch of wonderful, talented people you listed off there. So that is going to be great. And always, it's such great people to perform with, as we've both performed with
Yeah.
several of those women, and they are wonderful. So that is going to be great. Looking forward to that as well. I talked recently. Some stuff at UIS is I talked with Carly Shank. She's putting some stuff out with UIS. They're putting on a Shakespeare production. I talked also, yes, jumping around here. Talked with Mackenzie Ashbaugh a little bit about the virtual production of A Midsummer Night's Dream. The cast list is out for that, but also UIS's theater department is putting on a production of Twelfth Night,
Right.
and it is going to be in their studio theater, and it'll be like in person, but it will be streamed. But also, it's open to the public. It's not just the theater department. So anybody in the community, if they want to do some Shakespeare as well, they can also try out for that production. Those tryouts are the 1st and the 2nd of February, so they are coming up.
Wow, that's soon. Missy
Yeah.
Thibodeau Thompson, of course, directing that. Missy is great. They were going to do the production last year, had the whole thing cast, as I understand it, and then everything shut down. So I think a few of the people who were going to be in last year's production will still be in this year's, but they're recasting a lot of it because people have graduated or moved on or whatever. A year can make a big difference, and it's good that they're coming up with a way to present that and make it happen. We'll be looking at a lot of our old productions from last year to see how they'll fit into this new scenario. One of the things I think we're going to try to do is Pump Boys and Dinettes. We'll try to
Yeah.
do that eventually on the Bicentennial Plaza outdoors. It's a static show, meaning that the band or the cast members are the band and they're standing still and playing their instruments. So that is something you can do still reasonably socially distanced. And if it's outdoors, I think that'll work pretty well. Haven't talked to the city about that yet. That's just an idea that's percolating, but that's the kind of show I think that could go on outside and, do pretty well, or maybe even at the Y Block. That's a possibility too.
Right. Yeah. So that'd be good, because that's yeah, that was another one of those shows. It was cast around the time like right, it was going to come on right after Into the Woods. And
It was supposed to perform in April and May of last year. And
Yeah.
the cast, of course, like everyone else, was horribly disappointed. We postponed it to November thinking, well, surely things will be better by then. And then they weren't. So
Yeah.
we had to cancel it, but we do have hopes of putting that on. We have hopes of finding a spot for Into the Woods, of course. The majority of the cast is still around. And if we do it this year, I think we'll have everybody in the cast. If we wait another year, some of those will graduate from college and move on to a career. So we need to jump on that pretty quickly if it's safe.
Right. Well, that would be yes, if it's safe, and then it'll be wonderful, because as we can both attest to, that was a wonderful production that was so close to getting going. But of course, we're just very close to orchestra rehearsal and everything. But
Yeah.
so we'll be looking forward to that as well. Of course, if people follow pandemic guidelines, the vaccine rolls out quickly, then we will be at that place, come fall or midsummer or
There's a lot
something
of
like
hope. There's a lot of positive
Yep.
going on, and I think things are looking up. So if everyone can get vaccinated, if this new variant doesn't prove to be really contagious in our region anyway, then things will be very hopeful.
that. Right. So that is definitely something to look forward to. Yes, there is a bit of hope in that. So I also, you brought up it's something that I had read about that I'd kind of forgotten about, this we're talking a bit about Jane Krakowski, who is hosting a show called Name That Tune, and she is a new TV show called Schmigadoon, which is play on Brigadoon with Keegan-Michael Key.
And Cecily Strong from Saturday Night Live.
Yes.
That one looks like great fun. It's about a couple who are having marital difficulties, and they're seeing a therapist, and they go for a walk in the woods, and they run across this village, this magical village, where everyone is doing show tunes, and everyone is kind of in a musical theater production. And that sounds like so much fun. It's satiric, it's funny. It'll air on Apple Plus, I think, Apple Plus TV. So, that's on the horizon, hopefully by the spring or summer of this year. And then Jane Krakowski is also hosting a new version of Name That Tune, which is an old game show for some of us old fogies to remember, that was very popular. And they've done a fascinating thing. They've taped the whole show in Australia. They sent all of the cast members, all of the contestants to Australia. They quarantined for 14 days, and now they're performing it as if everything is normal. So there's a live audience. There's, the live band on stage, the singers, they're interacting. It's because things are pretty good in Australia, I guess, and they have pretty much a good handle on the COVID-19 crisis that they're able to do this. But that's an awful lot of effort to come up with new programming because they never could have done that in the U.S. right now. That was pretty much the only way they could put on that show and make it look like it used to look.
Right. So that'll be
look, I should say.
Yes. Yeah. Well, yeah. So that'll be interesting and for sure. And that's and Schmigadoon, that sounds great because that is because of course musical theater people know that is kind of the plot of Brigadoon, except they go to the town. It is a musical, so they're singing show tunes, but it's similar things. That is that'll be interesting.
It comes out of the fog, and
yes,
it's set in Scotland back in the old days. So very, very beloved show, and this new version sounds like a lot of fun, and I really look forward to that. I got Apple Plus to watch The Morning Show with Steve Carell and Jennifer Aniston and Reese Witherspoon, and I really enjoyed that. I thought that was some exceptional television, really great acting involved in that. Very disturbing to see, but good show. And you kind of have to subscribe to all these different streaming services because they all seem to have one or two really great shows that you want to see.
Yeah.
But they're all on different streaming services, so it can get very pricey if you're not careful about it.
Yeah, that was the argument. It was like, I don't have to have, I can cut the cord with cable, and I'll just get the streaming services I want. But then it's like, well, you're kind of paying as much as like you would be for your cable bill anyways with every streaming service you need. Yeah. So.
Oh well.
Yeah. Yeah. Well. Well, before we go here, I know that we lost a great, talented performer, performed all around the country, and was in Hoagland's production of Fiddler on the Roof recently. John Priest passed away very suddenly. I know you have a couple words you want to say about him.
Yeah. John was a fascinating guy. I read a newspaper article that he had moved to Central Illinois back in 2012, and that fascinated me. Why this actor who had toured the country in Fiddler on the Roof for years, since the early 90s, he had done 3,500 performances of the show, either as Tevye or Laser Wolf. He worked with Topol, Theodore Bickel, and Harvey Fierstein in different productions. He played Tevye 1,900 times, and all of a sudden he was living in Chatham. So that fascinated me, and I called him up and invited him back in 2012 to come and see Man of La Mancha, and he came and we struck a friendship. And back in 2015, John directed and starred in our production of Fiddler on the Roof with the local cast. And it was just really an amazing opportunity for people to work with someone who had worked with many of the original creators of the show, had worked with Sammy Bays Dallas, who was, Jerome Robbins, one of his apprentices who went on to direct countless productions. He was kind of the gatekeeper of Fiddler on the Roof for a good 40 years, and John and he became very good friends. But it was fascinating to talk with John. He had a great history, very friendly guy. He moved from Chatham to Georgia about 3 or 4 years ago The reason he moved here in the first place, I did eventually find out, is his wife was from this area. And because he was touring, they thought, well, let's get you to Chatham where you're close to family members while I'm on the road. And then right before they moved here, she came down with pancreatic cancer.
Yep.
They moved here. She passed away shortly thereafter, tragically. And, John was done with the tour by that point. He was, a nice guy, but the reason for being here kind of evaporated. And of course, he had her family to know in the area and some of the theater community. But so he moved on to Georgia to be closer to some friends. And, he was very careful. He had suffered from COPD for a number of years. So I know he was careful, but he caught COVID somehow, ended up in the hospital, was released about 4 days ago. And then just a couple of days ago, he came back home. We had communicated a little bit. He said he was doing good and felt better. And then he passed away in his own home. So heartbreaking. Very sad end to a very creative life and a very talented guy.
Yes. Yes. Like I told you, I didn't know him super well. I mean, I didn't know him at all, but he was very talented, and like you said, and like people I talked to who were in the production. I mean, it was a different experience, but it was a great experience,
Right.
Working with them, and he really was,
interesting to have his perspective as a professional actor who had done this show for 3,500 times and played Tevye for almost 2,000 times. So he was very set in his ways. He had a very specific way he wanted to do things. And it was a little, kind of a culture shock for some of our community theater performers to work in that fashion. But I think the end result was very positive, and I think people, really learned from the experience and grew to like John and to appreciate the talent and the knowledge and the history that he brought with him to that production. He was one of the people who kept that flame alive for a long time, and he toured through Sangamon Auditorium at least 3 times in Fiddler, twice as Laser Wolf and once as Tevye, I believe. So he had been to this area several times in the past, and he had crisscrossed the country for years. He'd done 23 different productions. I think he did one in Georgia too, so 24 now of the show. And you can't beat that kind of experience. It was fascinating to work with him. I was his co-director or assistant director, and then when he had to be Tevye, I kind of took over the behind-the-scenes stuff, and it was fascinating to watch him work, and he was so consistent. He, as I mentioned, he did have some, coughing issues because he suffered from COPD, but you didn't know that on stage. He was full of energy, and all his yigga-diggle-diddles were right spot on. His To Life was great, when he sang L'Chaim. Just a very interesting, talented, nice man.
Yes, and he is going to be missed by many people here in the community and around the country because he was such a force. So he rest in peace to John Priest. L'Chaim, that's right. So Gus, thank you so much for joining me for this State of the Arts, and we will do this again next week.
Kevin, sounds great. See you then.
That's good. See you then. It is Let's Talk Arts and Entertainment on WMAY.